Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news as we discuss, is Ruben Amorim a week away from the sack, or are Manchester United going to stubbornly back him? Also, an update on Glasner, who would apparently take the Manchester United job in a heartbeat. Would he be the right manager for Manchester United? Remember, he is out of contract in the summer, so would be relatively cheap. We think. We'll talk about that as well. Apologies for being a little bit late. I'm sure you can forgive me. I know it's nearly 8:15, but literally been in Manchester today, so the traffic was slightly worse than I thought it was going to be on the M6. So I've literally just got in the house and gone live, so I can't do much about traffic. But what Manchester United can do something about is Ruben Amorim. The question is, should they be doing something about it? I'm going to get a little bit of a poll going for you as well. But where we are tonight is this. Some people believe that Manchester United are in talks with managers and that they will make a change next week. Others are saying, no, that won't happen. They are very, very keen to keep Ruben Amorim. Would you keep Amorim? That's the question tonight. I want your theories, because you know what? I was speaking to somebody today and they basically said, they shocked me. They said, can I just shock you, Mark? And I went, no, you won't. And then they did shock me. You know what they said? I'd keep Amorim. And that wasn't what shocked me. They said, I would keep Amorim because I actually think we're playing better football than we have done for a few years. We've had some bad results, but we're definitely playing better football. He's got Sesko and he's got Mbeumo and he's got Cunha. And I just think if we stick with him, things will get better. And I thought, you know what? I don't believe you. I don't know what I want, by the way. As I've said, I'm not screaming Amorim out. I just don't believe changing a manager changes anything. I don't know what I want. I'm still sort of apathetically numb to what I want next for Manchester United. But he was just sort of saying, look, we have created more chances. We have looked more threatening. And if we give him time, he will get better like he did at Sporting. But I just said to him, why is he picking Bruno in the midfield? Why is he playing Harry Maguire as his last man? Why is Binder in goal? Why is Luke Shaw playing every week? Why is Delot straight back in the team? These are not the decisions of somebody I can get behind. These are not the decisions of somebody I think is going to turn it around. These are the decisions of somebody that don't think he knows what he's doing. And I think that, yeah, the football might be better. Yes, he's a nice guy, but I just think his decision-making is absolutely abysmal, and that's the only thing. I want to like Amorim. In fact, I do like Amorim, but what I want to do is think he's going to be successful, but I don't. And that's where I am. I don't think he's going to be successful. I'll bloody love it if he is. I'll bloody love it if he turns it around, but I don't think he is. Which leads us to the next question. Do I think he'll be getting sacked next week? Well, look, Ben Jacobs has basically said this in the last half an hour. If Oliver Glasner was offered the Man United job, he would take it in a heartbeat. He also plays a 3-4-2-1, so he's likely to be a key factor if Man United decide to change from Ruben Amorim. He's also said that the club want to back Amorim, but are looking at options. You know what I think? You know what I really, really think? I think Jason Wilcox, Omar Barada, Sir Jim Radcliffe are so culpable on the appointment of Amorim that it makes it very, very unlikely that they're going to sack him. That is what I think. Because when I think back to Erik ten Hag, he's been here for two and a bit years, and there's a brand new owner. So he's easy to sack. He's been here for 2 years, and also new owner, want their own guy. When I look at Solskjaer, he'd been here for 3 years, and it was very clear that he'd had long enough and it was going wrong. When I look at Jose, he'd been here for 2.5 years, and it was very clear that the players were going behind his back to the board who didn't want him anymore. Every one of those sackings, you could justify why it happened. With Amorim, he's not even been here 12 months, and it's Wilcox, Barada, and Sir Jim Radcliffe's guy. I think they're going to be ridiculously reluctant to sack him because it reflects so badly on them. And I think that is where we're at. So people say next week, Amorim sacks next week. If he loses to Sunderland, I think the movement to do it will be huge. But I still don't believe or trust that this ownership will do it, because I think it's, sometimes when you sack somebody, you're in a position where you can go, yeah, I agree with the fans. He's useless. It's not going to kick back on me. You're fired. But sometimes when you fire that manager, you're basically saying, I'm shit. And I think that is the big problem we've got here. And to add into that, I've just been sent something actually. I'll just read this out because I haven't even looked at it yet. So this is coming in from Laurie Whitwell, who writes for... Actually, where's that gone? I thought I'd seen that. Where have I seen that? I'm going to have to search for this now. He literally just... something just came out from Laurie Whitwell about Amorim. And I'm just going to have to try and find it now. This is very annoying because I literally was just reading it and I didn't actually like it. So, if anybody's got it, please let me know. Rob Dawson, sources have denied speculation that Sir Jim Ratcliffe has already met Gareth Southgate. United are not currently looking for replacements for Amorim. Effectively, what it said, and I might just be able to find it here. Let me use the power of search. Here we go. This is it. If Ruben Amorim goes, this is from Laurie Whitwell in The Athletic, if Ruben Amorim goes, does that bring the spotlight on Barada and Wilcox and other people that were involved in getting to this point? I think so that's why ultimately they want to continue with Amorim, and I think they do still feel it could work. But I think you're getting to a point now where those questions are going to become louder and louder, and ultimately results will dictate it. It's fragile. Feels like the hierarchy want to work with Amorim because they know what the ramifications are if they don't. But I feel that you can't ignore the results if they continue like this. It feels like they're going to have to be forced into doing it because they don't want to do it. I personally don't. I said this to you last night. I don't think they've lined anybody up. I don't. When we sacked Ollie, they were. This is true, by the way. This is fact. You can go and research it, or you might remember it. When we sacked Solskjaer, the club was completely and utterly unprepared. They had nothing lined up. There was no part of them that they thought Ollie was going to get sacked, and they just sort of got stuck like a deer in the headlights. You know, we got stuffed by Liverpool at home, Man City beat us, and then the Watford thing happened, and basically Solskjaer gave up, and the players gave up, and they were sort of stood there in November going, we didn't expect this. I think we're in the same position again. I don't think they've got any idea what to do next because the only plan they've got is Amorim. And the scary thing is, the only plan they've got is Amorim with a less than 30% win ratio and awful results. So... yeah, I would hope that they are putting things in place because even if Amorim produces a miracle and gets out of this, he's staring at the sack. So they need to start looking at stuff, of course. 50. I tell you what, I'm very impressed with you tonight. I'm very impressed with you tonight because would you keep Amorim? 51% yes, 40%, 49% no. I mean, after Chelsea, it was 60% yes and 40% no. So, you know, I know it's dropped a little bit, but not a lot. I mean, the majority here would still keep Amorim, which I'm stunned by that. I'm absolutely stunned that we've got 50-50, and I'm very proud of that. I mean, that's democracy. They're there for you. You know, 50% of you would keep Amorim and 50% of you wouldn't. I think that's incredible. I think that's absolutely incredible considering where we are. Would I keep Amorim? Only on pure stubbornness. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say Amorim out. I wouldn't say Ten Hag out. I'm not going to say it because I just don't believe it will make us any better sacking the manager. I want to sack the board. I want to sell a load of players. I think sacking the manager won't change anything. What I will concede is I don't think the manager's going to turn this around. I think he's going to sack himself. But I personally will not say Amorim out. I just won't do it. I refuse to do it because I don't see it getting any better, and that's really sad. And people can say, "Oh my God, how can't you say sack the manager when you don't think he's going to turn it around?" Pure stubbornness, pure stupidity, you might say. But that's just the way I feel. I don't feel motivated by changing the manager. Rory says, "I don't buy that INEOS won't sack Amorim as they are his guy. They will rather admit get it wrong than continue and miss out on Europe," says Rory. well, you're sort of putting your head, you're predicting something that you've got absolutely no knowledge on, like most of us. But I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. The thing about sackings is they can happen very, very quickly, Rory. But I don't. It doesn't feel like to me they're planning on sacking him, and it doesn't feel to me like they've got any plan in place to replace him. So, do you think the job's too big for Amorim? Says Warren. What a question. What a question. Do I think the job is too big for Amorim? Do you think the job's too big for Amorim? I think that the Amorim I know at Sporting came across as massively intelligent, driven, and innovative. The Amorim we're seeing at Manchester United seems to be very, very out of touch. And that's a polite way of saying it. Like, you could say naive. You could say checked out. But he's out of touch. Like, some of the things he's doing are illogical. Like, Harry Maguire should never be your centre-back against their last man. That's just madness. Absolute madness. Binder shouldn't be in goal. He's a calamity, James. Bruno Fernandes shouldn't be in the midfield. Luke Shaw at left centre-back's been crap for weeks. So some of his decision-making is wild. Absolutely wild. So is the job too big for him? In a sense, it is too big for him because if he can't figure those things out, he's at the wrong club. So yeah, maybe the job is too big for him, actually. I don't want to say that. I like the guy. I really want the guy to be successful. But you know what? If your best mate walks out from the toilet with a big lump of poo on his nose, are you going to tell him or are you going to say you look great? Like, the kindest thing is to tell them. And the kindest thing to Amorim is, I do like him. I think there is a good coach there. But you are basically walking around with a bit of crap on your nose, mate. And everyone can see it. It's like you are making really shit decisions. He is. If he doesn't want us to drop Bruno, I would try and Burmo right wing back, Bruno Cam and Mount centre midfield for a game or two. We can't get much worse. I mean, I don't think Mason Mount's a midfielder goes 92, whether he's better than Bruno or not. The players are clearly not responding to his system, says Rahul. The midfielder is the engine of the team and they couldn't recruit. Amorim needs players to suit. Yeah, but Amorim's the guy picking Bruno. I agree with you, Rahul, about we didn't buy a midfielder. But if we'd bought Belieber, it would be Belieber and Bruno. He won't change it. He won't change it. And you know what? I was listening to I think Gary Neville said it, and he's absolutely spot on. He was talking about Mainoo, and he said, if when you think about it, like Ruben Amorim has said publicly that Bruno, that Mainoo is Bruno's deputy. On the other side, it will be Ugarte and Casemiro, and Mainoo is Bruno's deputy. But Bruno plays every week. So you can sort of see why Mainoo's going, I want to play football. And this is the thing, isn't it? This whole bloody Bruno thing, whether he got a midfielder or not, we were still going to get Bruno in the midfield. People thought it was going to be Belieber and Mainoo. You're having a bloody laugh. You're having a bloody laugh. Mark, keeping Amorim is great, but he's an experienced coach. The job is too big for him. Somebody else saying it's too big for him. If we get another coach, players need to be dropped. It's a mess, says Eddie. Sir Alex nearly got sacked and went and did great, says Anskill. Yeah, I'm a little bit too young, but I very much doubt that Sir Alex Ferguson was playing a striker in the midfield. And I very much doubt he was making these sorts of decisions. As I said before, if Ruben Amorim was picking the right 11 and we were getting better results, I think people would be more patient. His biggest issue is he's picking shit teams, and that's never going to get... Definitely, this fan base wants to get behind this manager. Oh, yes, 100%. I want to be behind this manager. We definitely want to back this manager. I'm not slating this fan base for saying he's not going to work, he's sacking himself. We as a fan base, I think he's had huge support. But if he sacks himself, he's done it on silly decisions. Because people want to get behind him, but they won't follow him blindly doing silly things. And that's the problem. He's making bad calls and people just going, I want him to do well, I want to back him, but his decisions are terrible and so are the results. And that's the big problem he's got. I've never known a manager that's been backed so much. Like, people have been sacked at Manchester United for a lot worse than what Amorim's done in his first 12 months. But Obviously, no one's been sacked in their first 12 months, but their records were better. You know, their win ratios were better, and they got sacked. People want to back Amorim. People like Amorim, but his decision-making is, you know, sinking him, really. Sir Alex, we've done that one. Rory says, if Amorim, who is a back five specialist, can't get a tune out of these players, who is to say another back five manager will get a tune? Well, I want to talk about that, Rory. So Ben Jacobs has said tonight that Oliver Glasner at Crystal Palace would take the Man United job in a heartbeat. That sounds to me like an agent telling Ben Jacobs that Oliver Glasner really, really wants the job, because we've had these love letters before from managers who would love the job. Conte wanted it. Obviously, Jose wanted it. Glasner's out of contract in the summer, so United probably could get Glasner quite easily. I'd feel massively, massively bad for Crystal Palace if it happened. But look, there might be a deal there. We get Glasner and they get a Crystal Palace legend, Southgate. So this could work out really well. But even Palace will probably reject Southgate. My problem with Glasner is, and I don't jump on hype trains and bandwagons, as you know. If my opinion is popular, great. If it's not popular, it's still my opinion. Oliver Glasner's done a very, very good job at Crystal Palace, but I watch Crystal Palace. They are a counter-attacking team with 30% possession in some games. You can pretend you're going to like that, but you're not. You might like it for a little bit when we get a few results, but you will get fed up with that brand of football. And quite rightly so. Quite rightly so. We're Manchester United. We shouldn't just be about results. If Liverpool can turn their club around and win titles playing good football, and Arsenal can play good football, and Man City can play good football, we should be demanding good football as well as results. And I don't think we'll get that with Glasner. I think it'll be another short-term waste of time where a guy comes in for a couple of years, does okay, and then people get fed up with him. So that's my worry with Glasner. I'm not saying it wouldn't be an improvement, because it would, but stylistically, I'd worry about how long people put up with that. You know? Amorim to Man United is like Potter was to Chelsea. Turns out way over-promoted and needs fixing ASAP. Chelsea have had more managers since 2018 than us, says it's just Sebastian. Humphrey says, let him go. I'd blame the players if he was playing them in the best positions and showing dynamism during games. How well would Amorim be doing if he went to City, says Liam. I mean, it did just enter my head there, because I do think he would have been Pep's replacement if he'd gone. Mrs. Stone says, when you're sick, a doctor gives you a pill that makes you feel better. But if you keep taking it once you're well, it'll harm you. Bruno is that pill, says Mrs. Stone. Look, in relation to Bruno Fernandes, we should have sold him in the summer. I'm happy to have that conversation if we want to go back there again, but we should have sold him in the summer. What he basically has become is our best player, out of position, and our biggest problem. You know, somebody said it before on the chat, Bruno Fernandes is our best and worst player. And it makes total sense to me. And I know exactly what that person meant. He is our best player, but he's also our worst player, because he's massively problematic as a captain. He's massively popular in the club, and he's a really, really, really good guy off the pitch, but he ain't a captain. He's not a captain. He's the player that, you know, you just leave him to do his job. He shouldn't be leading the team. And he's clearly not the guy to turn this ship around, because since he's been captain of Manchester United, we've finished 8th, 15th and a 14th again. So he ain't the guy. Obviously, we won an FA Cup. We got to a Europa League final. He's got really good stats. What that says to me is he's a sporadic player. As a captain, you need a guy that turns up every week, and he can't do that. And he can't lead, and he can't get the team up, and he can't bring the team together. We've had some absolute tonkings with him as captain as well. He was captain against Liverpool, wasn't he, as well? Would you, Mark, you said you'd stick with Ten Hag until the end of the season. Would you stick with Amorim? Oh, I wish people would stop putting me on the spot, but it's a very good question, Donna. Would I stick with Amorim till the end of the season? You know what? Before the Brentford game, I literally said if I could press a button, I'd keep him for the season. I'm not so sure if I'd press that button anymore. You're asking somebody that's broken. You're asking somebody that doesn't know what they want at the moment. I'm not inspired by him, and I'm not inspired by changing a manager. I don't know what I want. I suppose the best scenario for me would be he drops Bruno, plays two proper midfielders, puts De Ligt back to the centre, plays Yoro to the right, maybe Maguire to the left, puts Lemens in goal, maybe puts Mbeumo right wing back and goes with 2 10s like Mount and Cunha or Bruno and Cunha. Maybe that's what I would like to see for the next few weeks. But I don't know. I just don't know. I just don't know what I want at the moment. And you know what? I don't know. I don't think the club does either. That's the scary thing. Sean Turner says, we're not playing better football. Who did you have a chat with? Stevie Wonder? I like the manager, but his time's up and it just hasn't worked out. I'd go with Ollie interim till the end of the season to get back a bit of better atmosphere around the club and give a new manager a fresh start, says Jake. Jake, the trouble with interims is people start asking them to get the job. Like, people were talking about Rude getting the job last season. Like, I know you, you know me, we know the way things work. If you give the job to an interim and they do okay, people will be going, give them the job. And then the club will listen. I don't like interims. I don't like interims. Mark, can you run a United stand survey on the club? Sky polls seem rigged by rivals. A verified survey like player ratings would show our community's true view, says Morgan. Yep, can do that, yeah. Has he gone looking for a new manager, says Mrs. Stone. Attitude reflects leadership, captain, says Turkey. Look, I think that indecisiveness leads to uncertainty, leads to, poor performance. As a football club, I think that Manchester United are, a rudderless ship at times. And I think that, again, we're in a position where if they intend to back Ruben Amorim, if I'm Sir Jim Radcliffe or I'm Omar Barada or I'm Jason Wilcox, I'm fronting up and doing a press conference. I'm not leaking it to Simon Stone that we're backing him. There should be some sort of, as Wayne Rooney said, there should be some sort of statement from the club, because if they're going to decide to back Amorim, then they should say it publicly, because as a fan base, I think that's the minimum we deserve. Please remember, I don't want Amorim blamed for everything. Jim and his Rat Pack made them their number one choice. It's on them too, says Mike JW. Gary Barrett, welcome to the Members Club, by the way. Thank you very much for getting your badge in the chat. Really appreciate that. Mrs. Stone says, foolishness is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Same applies for Bruno in the midfield and applies for sacking the manager, says Mrs. Stone. The thing is, like somebody just said there, if we got Glasner, Mark, why wouldn't that excite you? Well, yeah. Let me break it down. So if Man United got Glasner, we would still be able to play a 5-3-2 or whatever you want to call it. But I don't think he would play Bruno in the midfield, so that would be a positive. As I said, stylistically, I just don't think he would be that easy on the eye. I think it would become about being pragmatic and getting results, and that might stabilise the ship, I think, certainly. But I think after a year, people would get really bored of watching us park the bus at Anfield and the Emirates and Brentford, and they'd start moaning about it. And I just think it would be a short-lived bounce. And ultimately, are we ever going to see a Manchester United manager given the £500 million they need to really rebuild this football club? And I don't think they will. I think any manager that we bring in now, we're hoping for just some magical miracle where they can work with what they've got. And people will say, well, look, Amorim's had £200 million. But it doesn't touch the sides, really. Like, we did need 6 players in the summer and he got 3. So I just think that any change we make, you're still asking. I mean, look, I find it incredible that if Amorim gets sacked and another manager comes in, I will be able to say Luke Shaw, Jose Mourinho, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Ralph Rangnick, Eric Ten Hag, Ruben Amorim, Oliver Glasner. 6 Man United managers and he's still here. Bruno Fernandes, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Ralf Rangnick, Erik ten Hag, Ruben Amorim, Oliver Glasner. 5. You know, and that's just madness. And who bought Delo? Was it Mourinho or was it Ole? Is it 5 managers or is it 6? And that, I just find that incredible. I find that absolutely incredible that the next manager will have to come in and work with the leadership team, by the way. The leadership team, who most of them have sacked, on average, 4 managers. So, you know. Frank says Ralf Rangnick doesn't count. What, a guy that was brought into the football club to rebuild it, who started as the coach and was meant to be the director of football and got sacked, and was here for 5 months, he doesn't count? I think he does count, mate. I really do think he counts, because he came in to rebuild the football club and was meant to be going to be the sporting director, and they sacked him completely. So they got rid of a guy that I think would have changed the way this football club would have been run. So I do count him as a sacking, actually, whether you do or not. Hi, Mark and everyone. Me personally, I wanted to backhammer him to the hilt, but his stubbornness of not wanting to change by taking Bruno out of the midfield has changed my opinion of him. It's inevitable, says Lee Cape Town. I just wonder if he's. I just wonder if some managers are tone deaf. I just wonder if he's fully aware of how big his mistake is in the midfield. Like, I just wonder. I don't like making it about one thing, but I wonder if he's aware of just how the majority of this fan base think he's an absolute prat for putting Bruno in the midfield. And I wonder if he sits there going, they're all prats, I'm right. I wonder if he's just got no concept of it was Bruno who didn't track Smith Rowe against Fulham and cost us a win. It was Bruno that didn't track Foden and cost us the first goal. It was Bruno who wasn't marking on the back post for one of Burnley's goals. I wonder if he just is oblivious to it, or whether he's just like, I'd just love to know why he thinks it's a good idea, actually. If I could sit down with Ruben Amorim, there'd be a million things I'd ask him, but I would say to him, you do realise Bruno's playing shit in the midfield, and he's not a midfielder. So why do you pick him there? Like, what is he actually doing there that you think is great? I'd love to know the answer. I mean, he might just say, he's the best player I've got, and I don't like him as a number 10, so I've got to put him somewhere. That might be his answer. It might be, he's so important to me, I've just got to put him somewhere, and I can't play him right back or left back or goalkeeper, so I put him in the midfield. It might be that. It might be that. Glasner is just another Ollie, all about counter-attack, says Daniel. Amorim, integrity, misunderstood, or just foolish, says Crack Weasel. Sir Alex needed a centre midfielder and got Scholes out of retirement, says Daniel Stevens. Emperor says, I think Ollie will do better with this team. A lot of other players than him had, and he is good with young players, says Emperor. I can't believe people want Solskjaer back. Adil says, it's a bit hard switching between PC and mobile. I'd love to use just one platform, so kindly unblock me. I don't do the blocking, Adil. Ashwin says, Mark, would you take Conte now, or are you still after some hippie manager? When have I ever been after a hippie manager? I'm not after any manager anyway, so I refute your allegations. But would I take Conte at Manchester United? I'm probably one of the few that would. But honestly, mate, if you said to me I can have any manager in world football, I still wouldn't guarantee you it would work. I genuinely don't think, and I'm saying any manager, Pep Guardiola, Ancelotti, Nagelsmann, Flick, whoever you think is the greatest manager in the world at the moment, I don't think they come into Man United and make a splash. I think if you give them $500 million, they do, but I don't think it. I don't think there is a coach out there that makes this any better, and that's the sad thing. Every single time I've got excited when we got Mourinho, when we got Ole, when we got Ten Hag, when we got Amorim, when we got Van Gaal, I was really excited, but I wouldn't be excited this time because I just genuinely feel that, if I'm being honest, it amazes me that we've got fans that get excited that a new manager can change this ship around. I don't see it. I really don't see it. We've got nothing going on with the building of the stadium, which is apparently going to bring us loads of money in at some point. We're nowhere near being a top 6 team, let alone top 4. Most of our team is old and shit. I just don't see a way back. I really don't. But that's just so depressing. I don't want to say that to you. It's not fair. Great managers adapt to tactics to win. Amorim only has one style. He's like a barber who can only do one haircut. Bring in Javi, says Rob Monk. Eric Ten Hag won the FA Cup and that was the best feeling I had supporting the club in years, says Jimmy. Unfortunately, Amorim can't win anything the coming years. Say what you like about Ten Hag. He's better. We're in a much better position. What the problem with Ten Hag was, he won the FA Cup and finished 8th, and people thought that was bad. Because it was. You know what? I probably shocked you there. It was. Winning the FA Cup and finishing 8th is disgusting for Manchester United. It is. People were right to be mad about that. 8th place is bloody embarrassing. Regardless of winning the FA Cup, 8th place is bloody embarrassing. And people were right to be angry about it. Right now, 8th place in an FA Cup sounds like a bloody holiday. It sounds amazing. That's how far we've fallen since INEOS have come in. We've gone from 8th place in an FA Cup, which we would love right now, to where we are now. Where we're in the bottom half of the table and we're playing shit. Maybe in training, poor as he is, Bruno's better, says Alex. There's no doubt Bruno Fernandes is a good player. He's just out of position. He's out of position. You put Bruno Fernandes as a number 10 for Bayern Munich, he'd be a bloody good player. Bloody good player. Or Barcelona, he'd be a good player. I'm not saying he's good enough to get in those teams, but he would be a good player. He's just out of position. He's massively out of position. Red Devil Germany says, Sir Alex used Alan Smith as a 6, but the guy was a genius and the team was very strong. I want to back Amorim, but he doesn't deserve it because of his stubbornness and his team selections. Is that a fair point, Red Devil Germany? Ashwin says, I don't feel like the players are downing tools. I feel the manager is out of his depth. We have a squad with decent characters compared to earlier seasons, says Ashwin. I tell you what, I was thinking about today when I was driving back. And I don't know whether anybody agrees with this, so I'll just drop it out there. I personally don't think Bruno and Cunha work together at all. I don't think they complement each other at all. Like some players, like Messi and Neymar and Mbappe played together at PSG. Oh my God, what a front three. But I don't think they actually complemented each other that well. And I don't think Bruno and Cunha complement each other that well at all. I think Bruno Fernandes' natural game will never help Cunha. And I don't think Cunha really needs Bruno. Bruno Fernandes, when you analyse what he is, and I'm a massive fan of Bruno, I was desperate for us to get him out of Sporting. I thought he would change this football club, and he did for a period of time, and in some ways he still does. But Bruno Fernandes, by his own admission, is a risk taker. He loves to play the risky pass. That does not help Cunha at all. Cunha wants the ball into feet. He has an amazing centre of gravity. He has amazing control of the ball. He wants the ball into feet so he can spin away and run into space. Or he wants the ball into feet so he can take it out with his first touch. He does not want 30-yard balls in the air. He does not want a switching of the play ball. He wants the ball into feet. And I think that's what Amorim wants Bruno to do. I think Amorim wants Bruno in the midfield so that he can feed Cunha and Mbeumo. But I don't think Bruno feeds Cunha in the way that he wants. Cunha wants it into feet. So at the moment, I've seen absolutely no evidence that they actually complement each other really well, which again is very, very strange because we'd already bought Cunha basically when that offer came in from Saudi. Strange, really strange. David Chamberlain, welcome to Members Club. We've got to get a manager that falls under our identity of the club, says Jake. Mark, we need to send a message to these players that they can't keep sacking managers. Ruben in, otherwise cycle will continue again, says Evan. The players even know he's making awful subs, says Philip. Thank you, Philip Gordon. Mojo's in the house. He says, play Mainoo against Sunderland and see how it goes because we're crap with Bruno and worse without him. Because the sack is not too far off. Win without Bruno versus Sunderland. It's a small lifeline. Lose without Bruno. The writing is on the wall. He ain't never dropping Bruno though, is he, Mojo? I don't see that happening. What I will say about Mainoo though, because look, I like Bruno, but obviously I've been very, very harsh on Bruno as a midfielder and as a captain. But as a number 10 without the armband, I think he's a brilliant player, even with the armband. What I will say about Mainoo is, and I've never admitted this, so this is a first. What I'm going to say about Mainoo is this. He is slow. He's slow. Like, he is slow. I don't know whether it's because he's bulked up in the gym. He is slow. You know, when you look at the third goal that Brentford score, he gives the ball away. I watched it twice on Match of the Day on Saturday. He's sprinting to get back and he almost has to give up. He's so slow at getting back. Like, he makes the mistake. He knows he's made the mistake and he's desperately trying to get back, but he's making no ground. And it gets to a point where he knows the Brentford player's going to shoot and he almost goes, I can't get back. He didn't used to be slow. I don't know what's gone on there. Is it to do with an injury? Is he carrying a bit too much muscle? But if he wants to play in the midfield at the highest level, you can't be that slow. Like, he was not slow when he first came into the first team. So I don't know what's gone on there. And I've always been in denial about it. But yeah, there's definitely a lack of speed in his game that is actually really important if you're going to play that position. So I don't know what that's all about, but you could vividly see it. He was full pelt sprinting to get back and there was just no speed there at all. And that is some, I'm not saying it's even a bad thing. I'm not saying you don't need, you know, there are slow midfielders, but a few people have mentioned it over the last few months and I definitely did notice it in that case. Adel says, then what happens, Mark? Are we going to go through this all over again? It's really, really sad. Look, I'm very impressed that 50% of you want to keep Amorim. You know what? I'm impressed by that, genuinely. I'm genuinely impressed by that. You know, it's not reactionary. It's not, you know, it just shows you that even now, people are backing him, which I think's a positive because so many times that's not been the case with Ten Hag or Jose or Van Gaal or Ollie. Would you rather have Southgate or Victoria, says Tom Bride. We need a manager that can put his boot up the players' back and get rid of problematic ones, but our owners won't allow it for financial reasons, says Kia. Jacob says, same owners equals same outcome. We all know it. This is my big thing, Jacob. I think whilst we're run like we are, the problems will continue. To be fair to Amorim, he was dropped into the helm of the Titanic after it hit the iceberg. He's done things to make it worse for sure, but nobody was going to succeed in this situation. I think that's a very fair point, Brandon. Would you take Leeds coach Daniel Farke if Amorim is sacked? No, because they were going to sack him in the summer, Daniel, so I think he's another hipster. Mark, my soul is numb to whatever happens with Amorim. I hate to say it, but Ranić had it right. He said it best, and they outed him, says Slow Sports News. I sort of agree with you, mate. I do feel quite numb to it now. You know, kick me in the nuts once, it hurts. Kick me in the nuts twice, it hurts. Kick me nuts in the 3 times, it hurts. 4 times, it hurts. 5th time, it hurts, but I'm numb to it as well. And I do feel like we've probably never been in a situation as bad as this, but I just don't have any inspiration anymore to think that things can get better. Teams are telling us how they're going to beat us and then executing their plan. Very, very true, Keel. I'd respect the board and Sir Jim if they admitted they got it wrong, says Jake. And Scythe says, new manager equals players get another chance. A bounce back for a while, players show true colours again, but before manager can do anything, they're fired. And PSH says, given the owners' media circus and focus on commercial gains over footballing gains, it could be too big for any manager. No captain would have saved the Titanic after it had already hit the iceberg. A lot of Titanic talk tonight. Ramazan says, I think the media constantly nagging about the system since he got here has put Amorim in a spot where now if he makes a change and it works, it would undermine his position as manager. And if Amorim keeps winning home games and manages to win 5 or 6 away games, would that be enough for you, says James? Look, I'm not screaming Amorim out. Like, I haven't said Amorim out. What I've said is I don't believe he's going to turn this around, and I think he's making some shocking decisions. The reason I'm not Amorim out is, one, because I'd love him to turn it around. I like the person. I just hate the way he's playing football. And 2, I don't think any manager's going to come in and make it any better. So my stance is sort of like, well, we may as well just stick with it and see what happens because I'm not inspired either way. But that's not the right way to support a football club, if I'm being honest. That's what they've done to me. I'm just sort of sat there, sack him, don't sack him. I don't think it's going to make a massive amount of difference. And that's horrible. I don't want to be like that. I'm not the only one like that. I don't want to be like that, but that's how I feel. That's how I feel. I think previously, you know, with Ollie, you think, sack him, we need to change. I'm excited about the change. Even with Jose. Even with Ten Hag at the end. But with this one, I'm sort of like, you know, who's next, you know? It's like Henry VIII's wives, isn't it? You know, the next one that comes in, you know, is it divorce or is it you lose your head? You know, one way or another, he's getting married again. You know, you're not going to be the love of the life. It's not going to change. If Amorim keeps winning, I've done that one. Is Amorim playing to win games or is he playing to prove a point? Force change, stir the pot. There's something behind the scenes dictating his actions, says Nick P. Glasner can win in the Prem with a low-quality squad, says Ardy. We can't answer this question before we know who replaces him. He obviously tried to sack himself. It's just a sad situation, sister. Look, I have to be responsible and say that I said that. I've done many a match reaction, and I've said many a thing I regret. That's what passion and, you know, there's a word for me. There's many a word for me. Petulant. I'm petulant. I am petulant. When I get frustrated, passionate, angry, I'm a petulant person. I know that. I put my hands up. I think knowing what you are is, you know, half of the journey. After the game at the weekend, in a moment of petulance, I said, I feel like he's doing it on purpose. I feel like he's told us he wants to quit a few times. And Amorim's petulant. Amorim's an example of an emotionally petulant person. He said to us after the Grimsby game, and he said in January, he's ready to walk. He'd be a bloody idiot to walk, by the way. Like, who walks away from a £12 million payout? So my feeling is that he probably knows what we know, that job is impossible. And he probably wants to leave, but he ain't going to do it without getting sacked. And I just think some of his decisions are not long-term. Like, Lenny Yoro was in the team at the start of the season and now he's not. You know what that says to me? I don't think he's planning for the future anymore. I think he's just planning to survive. And I think when you're planning to survive, you're already displaying that, you know, you're not good enough. And I think that's what he's doing. Most of his team is just full of experienced players now. I like Jabby. He has elite level mentality. Pressure wouldn't change him, says Shahin. Getting rid of the manager is like flipping a used rubber inside out and going again. Either way, someone's getting screwed, says Universal Soldier. Mrs. Stone was eating. Oh, I think she's talking about the nose. Eric Ten Hag had a solid style of player and I don't know what happened, says Tom. Blame ratio, 40% players, 10% Ruben and 50% board. So Glenn says the blame ratio is 40% on the players, 10% on Ruben and 50% on the board. I like that. I like that. And we always sack the manager, don't we? I do. I agree with you on that. I think the blame is more with the players and the board than it is with the manager. Who was the last Irishman to play for United, says Basamiro? Gibson? I feel I'm missing somebody obvious. It's not Nani. Hi, Mark. I think INEOS are on a tightrope as well as Amorim. What I mean is INEOS have made United worse than the Glazers. Oh, the 100%, Nigel. 100%. Oh, Johnny Evans, of course. I was thinking Ireland, not Northern Ireland. So, come on, Mark. Everything you've been saying for a year is at stake. Sacking another manager is the definition of madness and lets the players win, says the streets will never forget. I haven't said sack the manager. All I'm being is very honest about the situation. Why do our forwards never take penalties, says Eddie? Because it's the captain. What's the solution, Mark? Something needs to give in, says DV. The only solution I can offer you is that if Amorim stops playing Bruno in the midfield, stops playing Maguire as the centre-back, drops Luke Shaw, drops Delo, and drops Binder, there might be something we can get behind. I have a question, as I'm not that old to remember. Were Liverpool ever so bad during their worst period? Just want to understand how we are, says Usman. Oh, mate, Liverpool were shit. Liverpool were shit. Like, they had many years of being shit. When I grew up, Liverpool were the best team in the late 80s. They were the best team in England by a very long way. Then the Premier League came along, and they got really shit really quick. for a very, very long time. But they still would pick up cups, and they still had some good players. But the big thing about Liverpool is they never had the Glazers for 20 years. They never had a club that was being run by people that are completely and utterly inept with hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds of debt. There's been plenty of clubs that have gone, bad for a bit. Arsenal were bad for a bit, weren't they? But our big problem is the Glazers. Like, the Glazers are... Nobody's had the Glazers. The Glazers took a successful club and gradually ground it down into nothing. I don't want to sack another manager mid-season, says Luke. And you spoke about the board as if they're incompetent. It is really that shocking that there was no plan after Ollie. It'll be the same this time as well, says Jake. Bus Terranius says the only relevant Amorim outer is Amorim himself. And if Amorim is sacked, another bit of my love for this great club will be eroded, says Yozza. Why are we starting another project when this one only began in June? He is making mistakes, but for the love of God, see a project through. This is a great point, Yozza. This is a great point, and I think everybody wants to believe in what you're saying. See the project through. It's the start of a project. I absolutely agree with this. I think we all agree with this. It's so early. Stick with the project. Stick with the project. I think so many United fans want to do that. I certainly do. But he's picking Bruno in the midfield. He's got Harry Maguire as his last man. He's got Luke Shaw in his defence every bloody week. He's dropping people like Yoro. He won't use Mainoo. He's got Binder in goal. These are all on him. You can't see a future if he won't show you one. You can't see a project if he won't show you one. And he's putting Bruno in the fucking midfield every week. That's the problem, Yozza. We're desperate to get behind this manager. We're desperate to see a project. We will take losses if we can see a project. But we can't take losses like Saturday, where all those things I've just said happened and the team was shite. That you can't get behind that. That's where most of us are at the moment. It's like, we desperately want to get behind this project. We desperately want to back this manager. It is definitely early days. But look at what he did on Saturday. All those bad decisions, all those bad substitutions, and then a team that did nothing. Nothing happened. We went behind very early and we didn't respond at all. It was a shockingly bad performance with some shockingly bad team selections. Where's the project to get behind? We can't just sit there and go, it's early days. He talks a good game. What we saw on Saturday was bloody abysmal, and that's why people are going, I'm not sticking with this. This is not going to work. He's going to sack himself, whether I back him or not, because he's not offering up a project. And that's the problem. I agree with what you're saying, Yozza, but where is this project? Where is this foresight? Where is this plan? What he's serving up is really bad, really bad. I don't buy that INEOS won't sack Amorim as their guy, says Rory. We've done that one. Thank you very much. Thanks everyone who's tuning in tonight, by the way. Please do smash a like. Make sure you're subscribing. 15k watching. Absolute legends. Mario24 says, I think what you want, like myself, is a team that plays exciting football, players that play for the badge, and yes, win some trophies. Ruben Amorim really hasn't been back properly to build his team. It's fragile times at the moment. Mario, I go back to what I've just said there. I agree with all of those things. I want a team that plays exciting football and plays for the badge. And I fully accept I will not get that straight away. But what I want to see is the structure, the pathway, the plan to do that. And he is so far away from that. If there was any part of me that could go, calm your tits. I can see what he's doing. It's going to take time. Look at what happened with Klopp. Look at what happened with Arteta. I can see what he's doing. It's going to take time. Just stick with him. If I could see that, I'd go, yeah. But don't anybody try and tell me that Saturday gave us a glimpse, even a glimpse of what he's trying to do. It's a mess. And that's what he's got to do very, very quickly. Starting with Sunderland, he's got to offer something up. Now, if we see another side with Maguire, Shaw, Dalot, Bruno in the midfield, Binder in goal, then win or not, I think people will go, what the hell? Ben Sanders, it's called being dictated to by news. So I don't know what points you're trying to score there, Ben, but Grow up. Don't need to worry about Luke Shaw. New Call of Duty is out soon, says Wapos. I mean, he's done very well to stay fit. No messing around. Nick P says, yes, Liverpool were crap, but they played knowing their level and they played with their heart. We still think we're world beaters. Acceptance is the first step, says Nick P. Sorry, Mark. In my opinion, Ollie did more with less. Never got support from the board. What do you mean? Never got support from the board? He spent £80 million on Harry Maguire, you prat. Think before you type one. Amorim needs till December. If we're top 10, he stays, and we had 1 or 2 more signings, a few outgoings to try to get into Europe. Summer we move on Bruno, Shaw and the rest of Deadwood, says Laura Montgomery. Laura, I don't know how everybody else feels. I can't deal with another week with Bruno in the midfield. Don't talk to me about Christmas and the whole season. I can't deal with another year of him being in another game with him in the midfield. I'm so fed up with it. Play him as a number 10 or drop him. Please don't play him in the midfield. I'd rather see Casemiro and Agate. I'd rather see Casemiro running around at half speed than Bruno. Like, I really don't want to see another game of him in the midfield. I can't get behind it. I don't like it, and I'm not going to like it. I'm sorry. Maybe Bruno and Delo are his secret sweetie pies, says Parker. He'd rather fail than change the system, says Sully. Look, I also would say this. I don't mind the 3-4-3 stubbornness. I don't mind him playing a 3-4-3 because he's done it all his career. Why should he change that? You know, the minute he changes his formation, he undermines what he's all about. So I don't mind the formation change, the refusal to change it. What I do take issue with is sticking with the bad decisions around selections, etc. Because that stubbornness hurts a football club. That stubbornness hurts a fan base. That stubbornness costs us results. Like, it is Man United, it's not Ruben Amorim. And I understand the formation and he should stick with that. But I don't understand the stubbornness around certain team selections that clearly don't work. That's sabotage in a sense. That's not stubbornness. Sticking with things that clearly don't work is sabotage. Like, sticking with Binder in goal is going to keep costing us points. So effectively, that's sabotage, isn't it? Because you know it's going to cost you points and you keep doing it. That's what's really getting on my nerves at the moment, is the continued use of things that everybody knows isn't going to work, and he keeps doing it. Why would you sack a manager knowing it's going to fail under the next, says Dimitri? Because it's so bad under this one. I suppose that's why they'd do it. Imagine having Rangnick as sporting director and Amorim as coach, says Damien. I really wish, you know what, every time it goes wrong at United, it really, really annoys me that we've messed up with Murta and potentially now with Wilcox. We literally had Ralph Rangnick at the football club, and he would have been a very, very good sporting director. He knew what was needed to be done. He's the only guy that said open heart surgery. He had a list of amazing players, that most of which have come to the Premier League and done well. It pisses me off that we actually had him here at the club and messed it up. Zim says, I love Ruben, but the system isn't working and it will take too much time to get the players in that will work in it. We can keep losing for that long. We can't keep losing for that long. Blame the management, though, not Amorim. I think this is an interesting point for the Amorim outers, and I think Zim sort of nailed it. The thing is, look at the bad performances. Do you think he can turn it around? There's still 32 games to go. If he can't turn it around and we're going to lose more games, how does he turn it around? I mean, where are the wins going to come from to keep him in a job? This Premier League looks very competitive as well. Like, it's not like... I actually thought this season there might be 6 or 7 really shit teams that would be comfortable wins for everybody. There really isn't anybody that's shit. I mean, Sunderland on Saturday is meant to be 3 easy points. So... I don't know where the wins come from unless we get a really big turn of change, you know. How Amorim has not held Bruno accountable and through team selections is amazing. That is going to end him, says Linford. Can any manager get something out of these players, says Mr. J. Lopez. Not consistently, I don't think so. I think you can get something out of De Ligt. I think you can get something out of Cunha. I think you can get something out of Mbeumo. I think you can get something out of Sesko. I think some of the Yoro, I think some of the newer players you can get something out of, but the players that have sacked 2 or 3, 4, 5 managers, I don't think you're ever getting anything out of them. Frank says, United are missing urgency in retrieving the ball back. We let Brentford have the ball like they were 2008 Barca. We do that too often. There's no accountability, is there? There's no passion. There's no intensity. There's no running for each other. Sunrise says, crazy take. In a past interview, Bruno said he had to be the manager on the pitch. Maybe that's why he's playing midfield for better control and communication, but it's not working. And Sound Dog says, I don't know if we're necessarily backing Amorim, but we're backing breaking the cycle in the hope it plays people in the right position. Yeah, I agree, Sound Dog. When Trunks fought Cell and overpowered him, but lost because he was too huge and muscular, he needs to be like Gohan. Javier, you're talking about something that makes no sense to me there, but I'm sure somebody else watched that programme. Alex Fincher says, so consider that Mainoo cannot play centre midfielder. What does Amorim do? Bruno needs to go and a real engine needs to be brought in. Give him a chance long term. Amorim just, because I don't want to be a pessimist. Amorim in, says Sudash. Bruno is a bad captain. A captain should be motivating the team, not demoralising them by blaming them for his mistakes, says Muskie. And D. Budge says, INEOS have maxed out their goodwill. It's not a Ruben watch we should focus on. This board has massively failed and are just like the Glazers. Somebody did say this morning, I missed it. Sim, welcome to the Members Club. Are there any protests planned? I mean, people want protests. They don't want protests. There was a protest planned for Arsenal and people made them stop it because they thought they were going to sign Belabor. You can't, I don't think there is any protest planned at the moment, but there was one planned and then loads of people said don't do it because we're signing Belabor. So make your minds up. Nothing is ever happening with these owners, so I don't care about manager talk anymore. Really wish people would understand this, says Joel. That's where I am, Joel. I think while we have this ownership structure, I don't think anything's ever going to change. I think the only strategy the owners have is to get the money and planning to build the stadium, and then they'll be making a lot of money at some point in the future. People don't necessarily want to believe that when we're signing Cunha and Mbeumo when we haven't lost any games. But the reality is that when they get that regeneration plan, they're going to make a lot of money. And I think that's the only thing they're interested in. Prove us wrong. If they're interested in the pitch, they'd have built a midfield instead of working on plans for a fucking stadium they haven't even started yet. Laura says, give Amorim till December. If we're top 10, invest in the window and aim for Europe. I've done that one, haven't I? Thank you very much, Laura. Thank you very much. Ferguson got rid of Roy Keane for what Bruno did, says Jake Henderson. And Cade said, I back Amorim. These owners brought a coach in to play a system and haven't given him what he needs. Do you think if the team was balanced, we would play better, says Tony? Well, yes. I think if you take Bruno out of the midfield and you play two midfielders, you'll have better balance. I think if you take Maguire out of centre-back, you will not get beat for pace if it's De Ligt as the centre-back. I think if you take Binder out of goal and put the guy you spent £20 million on, you'll get a better goalkeeper. These bring balance. So that's 3 changes straight away. I also think Luke Shaw is not playing well. So putting somebody who can play that position, whether it's Harry Maguire or Aiden Heaven, all these things make us better balanced. Yeah, I think we could be more balanced, 100%. I think that's what people are saying. And better balance leads to better performance. I mean, we're not going to be in the top 4, but we're not going to get stuffed by Brentford either. Anwar says, I don't think he's a bad manager. You don't achieve what he did at Sporting if he was. This club has just chewed him up and spat him out like every coach since Sir Alex. It's getting worse as well. God help the next guy if he's sat. Look, Erik ten Hag wasn't a bad manager. He was winning titles, taking Ajax to Champions League semi-finals. Jose Mourinho was one of the greatest managers in the game. Amorim, as you said, at Sporting did very well. Obviously, Ollie was untested. You can't really talk about what he was before. So, yeah, he wouldn't be the first manager we've chewed up and spat out, for sure. The team is very unbalanced, says Tony. Andreas says the players are like Kate on the door in the Titanic. Yeah, and the manager's Jack. And there's plenty of room for him, but they won't let him on. Ray Carl Brown Amori, your legend. He says, I want to back Amorim till the end, but I don't see a structure and he can't win back-to-back games. It feels like he's not the right man for the job. I tell you what, I don't like stats. I don't like win ratios. I just don't like any of that nonsense. But the inability to win 2 games back-to-back is shocking. It is shocking. And you know what? I will say this. That, to me, isn't just on the manager. That's on the players. That's on the players. Like, yeah, you know what? Every time I hear it, it really irritates me because it's like Amorim can't win 2 games back to back. And I go, you're wrong. Amorim and these players can't win 2 games back to back. Bruno plays these games. You know, Luke Shaw plays these games. The players can't win 2 games back. Yeah, Amorim's the manager. But no one ever mentions the players. The players can't win 2 games back to back. That's shocking. It is shocking. It's shocking for the manager, but it's also shocking on the players. Once the manager sends you out, it's on you. And they can't win 2 games back to back. But that just shows exactly what we know. We can beat anybody on our day and we can lose to anybody on our day. That's the definition of inconsistency, as a team that can't win 2 games in a row. Like, that is United in a sentence. Can't win 2 games in a row. That is inconsistency. That is exactly the word that has plagued this football club for years. We are so inconsistent. And look, you know, to win 2 games in a row, you don't even need to play well. You can scrap out a 1-0 win twice. You can grind out a couple of wins twice. I'm not even saying you've got to play well to win 2 games in a row. You can literally grind out a couple of results. I would love to know the multiple combinations that we've had as well. Like, all right, Chelsea, Brentford. Would you expect to win those 2? But I guarantee there's been loads of 2 games where you go, oh, we should beat both of those. We should beat both of those. We should beat both of those. It is shocking that we can't win 2 games in a row. Absolutely shocking. And there'll be so many combinations where we could have done it. It's cowardly, says Savage. It is. It is. Fantastic show tonight. Ben says, I'm hammering in, but he chose to keep Bruno. He's dying on that sword, and his stubbornness makes me think he won't turn it around. Teasy says, is there a path to full ownership for INEOS? I heard stuff about that a while ago. They're not looking at the path, no. Hi, Mark. Say he's sacked soon. What midfield would you want him to play until he is, to show what the future could be? Just take Bruno out of it. Play him as a number 10, Daniel. Ferguson, okay. Great show tonight. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We're back at 10 o'clock in the morning. I think I'm in the studio tomorrow morning, actually, at 10 o'clock. So make sure you tune in for that. I hope you have a great evening, day, whatever you're doing. Hopefully got FC26 back tomorrow. Proper Man United ball. Although I'll be shit because I haven't played in a week. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. I'll speak to you on the next one.